Hello, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the J Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Nowakowski, and we got a lot to cover this episode because we had a lot of college basketball. March Madness started. The first two rounds were played and finished. And so I'm going to get into that and talk about all of those games that were played, how the bracket challenge is doing if you join my group, who's in front, who's not. Fair warning, I am not doing well at all. And so I'm going to recap all the games. Luckily, I did get to watch most of the games. So that's really awesome. I'm very glad I got to do that. I watched most of the first round, most of the second round. So, but before we get into all of that, we did have some very tragic news in the NBA. So I'm going to start there, and then I'll get into all my college basketball stuff. But to start out today's episode, unfortunately, Monday afternoon, we found out that Lakers legend, NBA legend Elgin Baylor passed away at the age of 86 due to natural causes. Yesterday, I have an Elgin Baylor jersey. I mean, it's new, but it's an Elgin Baylor jersey. I wore that. Today, I'm wearing the Lakers lore series, which is they inspired after one NBA player or former NBA player. So, like, they had the Mamba jerseys, for Kobe. They had Magic Johnson Showtime jerseys. Last year was Shaq, most dominant ever. And this year's, the one I'm wearing right now, was actually designed and inspired by Elgin Baylor in those days. So, I'm wearing that one today. But Elgin Baylor passed away at the age of 86. And he's one of the more underrated players, I think, in NBA history. Because not a lot of people, A, know about him, or B, talk about him. I really only knew him because of my papa Steve, who passed away years ago now. But Elgin Baylor was his favorite player. He was a big Elgin Baylor fan, and he told me all about him. And so I always loved and knew all the stories about how great Elgin Baylor was. But I know a lot of NBA fans, and especially current day NBA fans, they don't know a lot about him. They don't know a lot about Elgin Baylor and his historic career and, where he is in Lakers history. He's also an executive for the Clippers. He has a statue outside Staples Center, but he has had some historic games, dropping many 60-point games, a 70-point game in the playoffs. So sad to hear that he passed away. And, as a Lakers legend, someone that I watched highlights of and saw him play in the NBA. Sad to see that he passed away. So rest in peace, Elgin Baylor. He did live a long and great life, and his legacy will never be forgotten in NBA history. So now that we've got, talked about that, sad stuff first, but we're going to get into some college basketball where it was upsets galore in the first two rounds of the NCAA tournament. So first, I'm going to start off with my round of 64 recap. The games I did watch, I'll go into more depth about. The ones I didn't watch, I'll kind of just tell you a quick summary of it. But I did get to watch a lot of the games. So, the first game tipping off at 9:15 a.m. on a Friday was 10 seed Georgia Tech facing the 7 seed Florida. And damn, this was a good game. Really just a amazing game from both teams. A great way to start off March Madness. It went into overtime. Florida ended up winning 75-70. And I mean, up until the 8-minute mark of the second half, I thought Georgia Tech had this game. I mean, in every way, shape, or form, Georgia Tech was dominating the game. And they never got out to huge leads. It was always 4, 6, 8-point leads. But Florida was never able to get a run in where they could make it, a tie game or 2-point game until about the 8-minute mark. Florida goes on this run and takes the lead. And, up until the 8-minute mark of the second half, I thought Georgia Tech was in command of this game. They obviously were not. They actually had to hit a 3-pointer with a second left to send the game to overtime. That was hit by Naheem Aline. I don't know how to say his last name, but he had a great game. He ended the game with 28 points, only 1 rebound and 1 assist after that, but he had 28 points. The leader for Florida, Colin Castleton, 19 points, 14 rebounds, 3 blocks. He had a crazy good game. He was huge for Florida in this first round matchup. And also it was it was the combination of Castleton and Trey Mann. Trey Mann had a great game as well. He kind of helped this team. He added 14 points, hit a couple of key shots, 3 3-pointers. So he came up big. Their starting guard, Tyree Appleby, got hurt and missed the last, I'd say, 6 minutes in overtime of the game. He was back for the second round game. He got elbowed in the head and actually needs stitches. But great win for Florida. That busted my bracket right away because I had Virginia Tech winning. But that's okay. The next game that tipped off was Arkansas and Colgate. Now, the score doesn't really do justice of how the game was. The Arkansas won 85-68. Colgate was leading most of the first half. I mean, most of it. And in like the final 8 minutes, Arkansas was down by 14 and they went on a 17-0 run. A 17-0 run to end the half, and then it made it a 19-0 run at the first possession after halftime. But yeah, Arkansas really found their game going on that run, and from there they just ran with it. And they ended up, winning the game by 17 points. I did have Arkansas winning that game, so but overall, I didn't see a lot of this game. I was stuck on Florida, Georgia Tech, but I was switching back and forth. That's a lot of them. I switched back and forth. So Arkansas gets the win, moves on to the round of 32. Illinois Drexel. I watched 0% of this game because unless it is a 116 and it is a close game in the second half, I do not watch it because there are normally better games on. Unless it's the only game on at the time, then I'll watch it. But Illinois got the win 78-49. I mean, Drexel shot 31% from the field compared to Illinois' 57%. And they were out-rebounded. And no trouble for Illinois. Easy win for them. Next game, Texas Tech, Utah State. This was a very frustrating game for me to watch because I picked Utah State, and it was not the Utah State of the regular season. They did not look like the same team. This was a team that did not turn the ball over a lot in the regular season, and they had 22 turnovers against Texas Tech. And it was just a frustrating game. Every time Utah State would get into like be down 2 or 4 points, Texas Tech would go on an 8-0 run and just expand and keep on expanding the lead. And the 22 turnovers, that is not Utah State basketball. That has not been them all year. But, you face tougher opponents, and you'll hear a lot. It'll be very repetitive. The teams that won the turnover battle won the game. Like Texas Tech, 7 turnovers. Utah State, 22. Texas Tech won the turnover battle. They won the game by 12. And that's a very significant difference. That's a 15 difference in turnovers, 15 possessions. That's a pretty big gap there. So Texas Tech moves on and avoids the upset to Utah State. Next game, Baylor Hartford. I actually watched a few minutes of this because it was a close game for a little bit. Hartford was battling, keeping it close with Baylor. But towards the end of the first half and all the way into the second half, Baylor really took command, winning 79-55. Again, winning the turnover battle. 24 turnovers for Hartford, 10 for Baylor. And Baylor didn't shoot particularly well, only 41%, but they shot 33% from 3 and got to the line a good amount and got a lot of offensive rebounds, 14. Baylor gets the win, 79-55. And the next one, the 8-9 matchup. This was between Georgia Tech and Loyola Chicago. this was going to be a very good game, and then you had Moses Wright go down with the injury, but Georgia Tech held their own. I will give them credit. They had a game plan. They stuck to it, and they had a good game plan. And they played well. Georgia Tech held their own, missing their best player. And Jordan Usher stepped up big for them, dropping 15 points. But Loyola Chicago was just too much, winning 71-60. On Loyola's end, Cameron Krutwig, Krutwig, they're presumably their best player, 10 points. But Lucas Williamson really stole the show, dropping 21. Also, Brendan Norris adding 16. Loyola Chicago is a dangerous team, and I will talk a lot more about them in the next matchup. That's a hint as to how that game ended. But Loyola Chicago moves on and beat Georgia Tech. The next game, the 12-5 matchup between 12 seed Oregon State, 5 seed Tennessee. I did not see this coming. I thought Tennessee was a better team than this. I know they hadn't won 2 games in a row in over a month, but I thought they could beat Oregon State, who really only got into the tournament because they won the Pac-12. That's the only reason they got into the tournament. And Oregon State pulled off the upset, 70-56. I didn't see a ton of this game, but Tennessee shot awful. Tennessee shot really, really bad. 33% from the field. Oregon State up near 48%. Also, Oregon State shot 48% from 3, 10 of 21, while Tennessee shot 5 of 26, 19%. And again, the turnover battle, this was one of the few games Oregon State had more turnovers, 14-10. But they shot so well, it didn't matter. They still won by 14. They were up 33-19 at halftime. Really bad loss, bad way for Tennessee to end the year. Oregon State pulls off the upset. The next game, this was a game I watched a lot of, Liberty and Oklahoma State. Cade Cunningham and company taking on Liberty. A lot of people did say Liberty's a dangerous team. Cade Cunningham took care of business. Well, he took care of business in the second half. They won 69-60. Cade Cunningham really showed out well in the second half, ending the game with 15 points, 14 of those coming in the second half. Only shot 3 of 14, though, but it was Avery Anderson who really showed up big for them, dropping 21 points and really helping, doing a good job in the first half because Cade was struggling. He took it upon himself to get the scoring done for Oklahoma State, and he got it done. Liberty, on the other end, had a lot of just consistency. They had a lot of players score over 10 points. They had 4 guys go over 10 points. And the numbers, very even numbers all around, and turnover battle, it was 16-13. Liberty had more turnovers. But really, a lot of numbers were similar. Oklahoma State really struggled from 3 of 15, but Liberty didn't do much better, 8 of 21, and Oklahoma State escaped with the 69-60 victory to move on. Next game, Wisconsin, North Carolina. I was thought North Carolina. Going into this game, Roy Williams had never lost a game in the round of 64, and Wisconsin completely changed that, winning 85-62. Brad Davidson, 29 points for Wisconsin, while Demetric Rice had himself a night as well, dropping 21 points. And Wisconsin just from the gates blew out North Carolina. Shot 51% from the field, 48% from 3. Won the turnover battle, 6-10 in favor Wisconsin with less turnovers. And just, the whole game, it was never a close game. North Carolina, Roy Williams, his first round of 64 loss, loses to the hands of Wisconsin, and they move on. Next game, number 15 seed Cleveland State, number 2 seed Houston. Not much of a game. Houston won 87-56. They were led by, actually a couple of players really led this team. Their leading scorer was Quentin Grimes, had 18 points. It was Marcus Cesar, added 14. And they had some bench players like Trayman Mark had 15. Fabian White added 12, and Brissom Gresham added another 10. So really consistent all around, and easy win for Houston. They move on. Next game, upset alert, North Texas and Purdue, the 13 seed North Texas, the 4 seed Purdue. This was a great game on both ends, going back and forth a lot. It was Javion Hammett, though, for North Texas, grabbing 24 points, while Mardrez McBride, different McBride from West Virginia, added 16 points. Purdue's side, though, they had some good performers as well. They had Jaden Ivey. He had 26 points, and then Travion Williams, 14 points, 13 rebounds. But North Texas, look at it. Look at the turnover battle. 11 for Purdue, 6 for North Texas, or 5 for North Texas. They really did a good job about not turning the ball over, shooting 48% of the field, 43% from 3 as well, compared to Purdue's 30% from 3. And that was the difference in the game. North Texas wins 78-69. Next game was Rutgers and Clemson. And I know there's a game I still haven't talked about. Don't worry, that'll be the last game I talk about because that was a huge upset. So Rutgers Clemson, the 10-7 matchup. Rutgers, this game came down to the wire. Rutgers ended up winning 60-56. Very close, very good game. Rutgers had 4 guys score in double figures. Clemson had 3 players score in double figures. And this was such a fun game to watch, going back, a very close game from start to finish. Very evenly matched teams. Turnover battle, another one. Rutgers 13, Clemson 10. So, Rutgers lost the turnover battle, but won the game by 4. Caleb McConnell came up really big for Rutgers towards the end of the game. He ended with 13 points, and Rutgers wins their first NCAA game since, I think it was the 90s, I want to say. Next game, Syracuse, San Diego State. And Jim Boeheim and his son Buddy really made me look stupid here, as Syracuse pulled off the upset, winning 78-62. And like I said, Jim's kid, Buddy Boeheim, is the star of this Syracuse team, as he had 30 points in this game. And really, San Diego State, that was not their best performance. 28% from 3. They took 43 pointers in that game, compared to Syracuse 15-27. That's 56% from 3. And yeah, Syracuse wins by 16 and advances to the round of 32. The next game on Friday was Winthrop versus Villanova. This was one I thought was going to be a clear upset. No Colin Gillespie for Villanova, but Villanova put in a very good team effort, led by Jeremiah Robinson Earl. 22 points, 11 rebounds, and then you had Justin Moore adding in 15, and then you had Jermaine Samuels adding in 11 for Villanova. A very good team effort on Winthrop's end. They really didn't have any big performers. Their best scorer was DJ Burns with 12 points. Villanova won 73-63, and again, turnover battle. Villanova won it 10-6. But it was really shooting woes for Winthrop in this game. 36% from the field, 32% from 3. Yeah, this was just, Winthrop never really got going in this game. Anytime they did, Villanova shut it down really, really fast. So I know Winthrop was leading through most of the first half, but second half, it was all Villanova. And they win. Next game, Morehead State, West Virginia. I didn't catch a lot of this game. Morehead State lost 67-84, and it was their coach Higgins for West Virginia, his 900th career win. For West Virginia, they move on. Now, the one game I didn't talk about was the big upset. Oral Roberts defeating Ohio State 75-72 in overtime. Yeah, that was a shocking win. Oral Roberts, holy cow. Kevin O'Connor, 30 points. And then you had Max Abrams, dropping 29 points himself. On Ohio State's end, they had EJ Liddell had 23. And Dion Washington, had 18 points, missing the potential game-tying shot at the end of overtime. Oral Roberts shot the hell out of the ball this game. Shooting a lot of threes. Ohio State could not hit any threes, only shooting 22% from three for the game. So Oral Roberts completed the big upset. After the game, though, threats being EJ Liddell posted these like death threats that he got. Like, that's not what March Madness is about. That's not what it's about. Come on. This was a big bracket buster, but there's no situation where a college athlete should be receiving death threats because the number 2 seed lost. Like, that's just not cool. And there's another threat happens later in the round of 32. I'll talk about that. But seriously, like, there's no room for that. This is March Madness. This is college athletes. This is supposed to be a fun event for fans and players. That's just not cool. They're getting death threats after losing a game. But moving on to Saturday's game, we started with the 5-12 game, Colorado versus Georgetown. Oh, everyone was loving Georgetown for this game, and they got their asses handed to them. 96-73 Colorado win. Colorado shot 61% from the field and 64% from three. That's the story right there. And yeah, they blow out, and Patrick Ewing and Georgetown go home. Next game was on the date was Florida State and UNC Greensboro. This was a closer game than I thought. I didn't get to see a lot of it. But Florida State ended up winning 64-54. Yeah. And it was, overall, it was a close game. I'm looking right here. Florida State didn't hit a 3-pointer, but UNC shot 32% from the field compared to 52% for Florida State. And overall, just looked like a good team effort from Florida State. From what I saw in the highlights, Florida State moves on to the round of 32. Kansas Eastern Washington. Now, this game was led by the Grove brothers for Eastern Washington. These two looked like they just came out of the woods and looked like Sasquatches on the court. So it was Tanner Groves having 35 points, and then he has a brother, Jacob Groves, adding 23 points. That was most of Eastern Washington's scoring. For Kansas, they did have David McCormack. He was in the lineup. He had 22 points, played a great game. Marcus Garrett adding 20 points, and then another 21 points from Ochai Agbaji. I'm sorry, I really butchered that name. I am very bad with names. But it was a close, good game. Eastern Washington held their own, but Kansas prevails 93-84. Next game was the 8-9 game, LSU versus St. Bonaventure. And this was also, a good game. LSU had a very slow start, but they overcame that fairly quickly, and ended up putting a very good win, really led by Cameron Thomas, 27 points. And then they had Darius Days adding 13. They also had Andre Hyatt. He added another 13 for the Tigers. And on St. Bonaventure's end, their leading scorer, Jaron Holmes, 18 points. This was a really fun game. I got to watch a good amount of this game, and LSU really, that slow start really worried me because I was like, are they going to be able to overcome this? Luckily, they did. The shooting woes for St. Bonaventure from three really helped them. St. Bonaventure went 3 of 20 from downtown. And not a lot of turnovers this game. 3 turnovers for St. Bonaventure, 7 for LSU. So really clean game, a fun game. LSU wins by 15. Michigan, Texas Southern, 1-16 matchup. I did not watch any of this game because it was never really, it was kind of close, but it was never close enough to really, watch. Texas Southern Texas Southern loses 66-82. As the top performer was Mike Smith, 18 points for Michigan. and no Isaiah Livers, and they advanced to the round of 32. Next game, Creighton and UC Santa Barbara. Oh, this was a hectic and very good game. UC Santa Barbara put up a hell of a fight. It was a great performance from on UC Santa Barbara. A great team performance, I should say. Amandu Sow had 12. You had Ja'Cory McLaughlin, UC Santa Barbara's best player, 13 points. And then you also got another 13 points from Norris. He had another 13 for UC Santa Barbara. Miles Norris, that is. And Creighton really struggled early on in this game. And then late in the game, it was a very random win for Creighton because they struggled early and then they struggled late and almost let UC Santa Barbara come back and win the game. UC Santa Barbara had a chance to win the game down by 1 towards the very end of the game. And it was a drive by, I don't remember which player. I don't know who it was that drove, but he drove to the basket and he looked like he tried to draw the contact instead of just finish, and he ended up missing the layup. And Creighton escapes with a 63-62 victory. They were led by Marcus Zagorowski, 17 points. Christian Bishop, their big man, added 15 and 11 boards. And then their third head of their three-head monster, Denzel Mahoney, added another 13 points. They escape with a 1-point victory, and Creighton wins. So that was a great game. Iona, Alabama, I watched a little bit of this because Iona was playing so well for so long. And then I don't know what, and then here, you know what happened? They just got cold. And well, actually, Alabama got hot from 3. They started off cold. They hit 5 3-pointers all in the second half, which were key for Alabama to win 68-55. I said if you stop their 3, you can win. Herbert Jones had 20 points for Alabama, but it was, the 3-pointers came at key times for Alabama, and Iona just couldn't. Their turnovers were at the wrong time, and Alabama wins 68-55. USC took care of Drake 56-72, led by their star Evan Mobley, 17 points and 11 rebounds. USC shot 50% from the field. And actually, again, another clean game, not a lot of turnovers, 7-8. USC actually had more turnovers, but they dominated the paint, 42 points in the paint, and USC advances to the round of 32. Next game was Grand Canyon and Iowa. I did not watch a lot of this. Grand Canyon put up a good fight, but Iowa wins 86-74. Luka Garza, 24 points. And Iowa shoots 54% from the field, 46% from 3, gets the 12-point win and moves on. Next game, Ohio versus Virginia. Now, this was a really good game, and it was Preston, Jason Preston for Ohio. He was the big name going into the tournament. He was the LaMelo Ball of the tournament. He has a near triple-double, 11 points, 13 rebounds, 8 assists, but a lot of help from Ben Vanderplas adding 17 points and Ben Roderick adding 15 points. So Preston needed some help this game. He did struggle, but they pulled off the upset over Virginia. Virginia, led by Sam Hauser, had 15 points, but it was Ohio completing the comeback, winning 62-58. And I mean, this was such a fun game to watch. This was so back and forth, fast moving. Jason Preston really has a lot of skill. And this Ohio team surprised me. Preston didn't play his best, yet Ohio still got the win. And they move on. Oklahoma, Missouri in the 8-9 matchup. I really did not expect this game from Oklahoma. Oklahoma played super well. Austin Reeves, 23 points. Elijah Harkless adding another 16. And you had Brady Manick adding in another 19 for Oklahoma. And for Missouri, it was Drew Smith adding 20 points. But Missouri could never get the big run in. They could never get a long enough run. Oklahoma always seemed to get a timely bucket, and they get past Missouri 72-68. We had Norfolk State and Gonzaga play. I did not watch any of this game. Gonzaga won 98-55. I mean, that should tell you enough. Gonzaga dominated. BYU, UCLA. This was a good game. Man, I wish I took UCLA. Led by Johnny Juzang, 27 points for UCLA. And then he got some help from Jules Bernard, adding in 16. And UCLA pulls off the upset, even though Alex Barcelo dropped 20 for BYU. This game was really all UCLA, and the Bruins win and dance on to the round of 32 after beating Michigan State in the first 4 matchup. I got technically 3 more games. Only 2 were played. VCU and Oregon. That game was a no contest due to COVID issues in the VCU program, so Oregon automatically advanced. That's it. Oregon moves on. Next, we had Abilene Christian versus Texas. What a phenomenal game. Abilene Christian, really, they had a few players. They had Corin Mason had 11, and then they had Joe Pleasant also had 11. Those were their top scorers. For Texas, again, their top scorer, Andrew Jones, 13 points. Jericho Sims adding in 10, and it was Kai Jones adding in 11 for the Longhorns. But, I mean, this Abilene Christian really played the game to their advantage. The turnover battle, 9 turnovers Abilene Christian, 22 for Texas. Now, I said, playing at their best, Texas can be the best team in this tournament. And they did not play their best. But they were up by 1 towards the end of the game, and driving in the final seconds, a foul was called on Texas. Now, where the foul call, I didn't necessarily agree with. I thought the drive, so it was a drive offensive rebound, and he kind of flew it back up, jumping in all-in-one motion, and he kind of reached in, and they called a foul. Now, I thought there was a foul on the initial drive. The putback, I would have been okay with no whistle, but I did think there was a foul on the drive. So, Abilene Christian hits 2 free throws and wins 53-52. And the last game, my UConn Huskies taking on Maryland. This was such a frustrating game to watch. I mean, so UConn shoots 32% from the field. Maryland shot 51% from the field. UConn, they dominated the offensive glass. 21 offensive rebounds, but they could never finish. I did think, in my opinion, there were a lot of no calls not going in UConn's favor. I'm not going to sit here and blame the refs, though, but I thought there were a lot of no calls when I thought there should have been a call. But unfortunately, calls didn't go UConn's way. James Bouknight really didn't get hot. He didn't go on one of those long streaks we've seen. Maryland wins 63-54. So both my teams knocked out in the round of 64, but that's okay. Sunday, we had the round of 32 start, and wow, did it start with a banger of a game. Loyola Chicago, Illinois. Cameron Krutwig, after, having an okay game, came out to play, dropping 19 points and 12 rebounds, while it was Kofi Cockburn for Illinois, dropping 21 points and 9 rebounds. And Illinois Chicago pulled off the upset over number 1 Illinois. So the first 1 seed to go down was Illinois, which I did not see coming. I said it was going to be Michigan, but Loyola Chicago pulled off the upset. And, why do you bet against Sister Jean? Because you shouldn't at this point. You shouldn't bet against Sister Jean at this point. And Illinois' defense, Chicago, Illinois defense or Loyola Chicago defense was so good this game. They played great team ball. Again, so they had Cameron Krutwig, who really did a lot to really make Kofi Cockburn uncomfortable a lot in the game. And then Lucas Williamson, he added in another 14 points and a really good team effort and then you had Marquise Kennedy adding 14 off the bench. You had a very good team performance, which is what Loyola Chicago has preached all season, is they are a tough team. And that's what they showed against Illinois as they pulled off the upset, winning 71-58. The next game was Baylor, Wisconsin, 1 seed versus the 9 seed, and no upset here. Baylor wins 76-63. Wisconsin really had trouble getting going. It was just all Baylor, it felt like, from the whole game. Again, the turnover battle, actually this one did go in Wisconsin's favor. But again, it was a game of runs, and Wisconsin's runs weren't as big as Baylor's runs, as Baylor had 3 guys score in double figures, including they had Matthew Mayer off the bench adding 17. So Baylor got the win, advances to the Sweet 16. Next game was Syracuse, West Virginia. Why do you bet against Jim Boeheim? Why? Because, again, Syracuse just came out and they acted like a top 25 team these past 2 games. Buddy Boeheim, 25 points. I mean, this guy is shooting incredible. It was Buddy Boeheim, but he had some help from Joseph Girard, adding 12. West Virginia, though, man, this had to be a rough loss. You had Sean McNeil drop 23, but it was Miles McBride, only 11 points. You kind of expect more from him, but Emmett Matthews kind of picked up his slack. But Syracuse pulled off the 75-72 win, and the 11 seed Syracuse Orange are going to the Sweet 16. Next game was Arkansas and Texas Tech. This game came down to the wire. I missed most of this, but Texas Tech had a shot to win at the very end of the game, but Arkansas held on to win 68-66, led by Justin Smith with 20 points, while the Matt McClung March Madness player ends as he ended with 9 points, shooting 2 of 6 in the game. But they were led by Terrence Shannon, who had 20 points for the Red Raiders. But Arkansas holds on and goes to the Sweet 16. Rutgers Houston, another great game. 2 seed Houston, 10 seed Rutgers. I watched a good amount of this game, and Rutgers played so bad at the end of the game. They could have put that game away in, the final 3-4 minutes. But they had so many empty possessions, scoreless possessions, and then their defense just fell apart. And Houston comes back late and wins 63-60 as they were led by Quentin Grimes, 22 points for the University of Houston. And they end up getting the victory, moving on to the Sweet 16. Next, Oral Roberts, the 15 seed, facing 7 seed Florida. And Oral Roberts gave them a hell of a game. Kevin Obanor, 28 points. Again, another great game from Obanor. And also Max Abrams. I've already said his name once. I'm going to say it again. He had 26 points. So you know who their 2 stars are. It's those 2 guys. For Florida, it was the same man for them. Colin Castleton, 14 points, 10 rebounds, another double-double. He also added 3 blocks on the day. But that wasn't enough as Florida loses 81-78, and the 15 seed Oral Roberts is dancing to the Sweet 16. Next, we had North Texas face off with Villanova. No Colin Gillespie, no problem. Villanova wins 84-61. I didn't watch a lot of that, so I'm just going to move on to the next game, which was Oregon State versus Oklahoma State. Man, I was waiting for Oklahoma State to make that late game run. I was sitting here waiting for it to happen. It never happened. Cade Cunningham did his part, though. 24 points. Didn't shoot particularly well, 6 of 20. But He got some help from Avery Anderson. He added in 16. But for Oregon State, a very complete team game. Ethan Thomas having 26 points, and then 15 from Jared Lucas and Maurice Kau. So Oregon State, the 12 seed, keeps on dancing, and they're going to the Sweet 16 as the 12 seed. Now that takes us to Monday's games. I watched some of them. I was at work, so I listened to a lot of them, but I didn't get to necessarily watch. I listened to them. The first game was, oh my goodness, a hell of a game. 7-seed Oregon playing their first game of the tournament against the 2-seed Iowa Hawkeyes. And this game was crazy. From the very beginning, up and down, high scoring. Defense was not a thing whatsoever in this game. No defense whatsoever. The halftime, and Iowa was leading by 4 late in the first half, but Oregon went on a nice run to end the half, and they go into the halftime with a 56-46 lead, and it was all Oregon in the second half. All Oregon in the second half. They end up winning the game 95-80, but Luka Garza, 36 points to end his Iowa Hawkeye career. Great career there for Luka. Hope he gets a good shot in the NBA. But Oregon, man, that was a great performance. Scoring 95 points, 44% from 3, 56% from the field. And yeah, Oregon goes to the Sweet 16. Next game, Gonzaga, Oklahoma. I did not get to see or listen to really a lot of this. Gonzaga won 87-71. They were led by Drew Timme, 30 points, 13 rebounds. Austin Reeves had 27 points to keep Oklahoma in the game. But Gonzaga proves they're either the best team in the tournament, win 87-71. And the next game, the next game was Abilene Christian UCLA, the 11-14 matchup, as you would expect in March Madness. UCLA controlled the game from the tip. It was 12-8 Abilene Christian. UCLA goes on an 18-0 run, and they never looked back. It was Cody Riley getting a double-double, 12 points and 12 boards, and he also had some help from Johnny Juzang, adding in 17. And UCLA moves on, winning 67-47, going to the Sweet 16. And I know George Martin is very happy to hear about that. Next game was the 1-8 matchup, LSU and Michigan. I was waiting for LSU. They always seemed in striking distance, but they end up dropping this one 78-86. Michigan moves on. 2 wins now without Isaiah Livers. Great game from Michigan. Javonte Smart, 27 points. Michigan shot 54% from the field. That's the story. Next, we had the 5-4 matchup between Colorado and Florida State, and it was all Florida State this game. I didn't watch any of this. Florida State won 71-53, dominated from start to finish. That's really the rest of these games was one team dominated. One team showed up, one team didn't. 10-seed Maryland facing the 2-seed Alabama. Alabama won 96-77. So again, defense was not a thing. Alabama hit 16 three-pointers though, and that was pretty much the difference. They both shot 53% from the field, but it was the 16 three-pointers and the 15 offensive rebounds that helped Alabama win this game. And the last game of the round of 32 was USC versus Kansas. Now, the 6-3 matchup, this was projected to be a very good game. It was anything but. It was Evan Mobley, 10 points and 13 rebounds, and a very, very good game from USC, having 5 players score in double figures. USC tramples Kansas 85-51. So, that was the round of 32 games. Now it's time to get into the Sweet 16, which games will be starting for the Sweet 16 on Saturday, March 27th. We have the first games, then the 28th is going to be the other games, and then we have the Elite 8 games after that, I believe. So, Let's start off with Saturday's games. I'm going to give you the preview. And actually, before that, I'm going to update everyone on the bracket challenge. So I was doing the ESPN Bracket Challenge. You guys all had time to join, and we got some people to join in. And so currently, leading the way in the J Sports Bracket Challenge is Ryder Henderson. He's tied with Michael Golden, both with 410 points. Right behind him with 390 is George Martin. And me, I am down. I am in 8th out of 9th with 310 points. So I think I'm out of the running, but you have a pretty good battle up top with a tie between Ryder and Michael, and then George not too far behind. Now let's get into the Sweet 16 preview and my predictions for these games. So the first game Saturday, the 12-seed Oregon State Beavers, 8-seed Loyola Chicago. I am going to take Loyola Chicago. They just seem, they shoot fifth. They are 5th in the nation in field goal percentage. 5th, shooting almost 50% from the field. If you shoot 50% from the field, you win most games. Almost every game you will win if you shoot over 50% from the field. They have a tough defense, and they play so together and as a team, and never bet against Sister Jean. So Loyola Chicago over Oregon State. Next game, Baylor Villanova. This is the game I think Villanova misses Colin Gillespie. I know I said it last time before the first round matchup, but I really think it hurts them here. I think Baylor's going to win this game and advance to the Elite Eight. Oral Roberts and Arkansas, the 3-15 matchup. As much as I don't think Oral Roberts has it. Arkansas is a very solid defense, and Arkansas is on top of that. One of the best has the best 3-point, makes the most 3 points per game, averaging 11 made 3-pointers a game, and shooting a 12th in the nation. I think it's going to be too much for Oral Roberts, and their Cinderella story ends with an Arkansas victory. Next game, Syracuse and Houston. Does Buddy Boeheim do it again? Man, this is going to be a good game. Houston escaped Rutgers. I am not going to bet against Jim Boeheim anymore. I see an upset brewing here. Syracuse defeats Houston and goes to the Elite Eight. So those are Saturday's games. Now we're moving on to Sunday's games, where the morning game is going to be Creighton and Gonzaga. And this is where the Blue Jays season will end, because Gonzaga is the best team in the nation, and they are going to prove it. I think Gonzaga might have trouble with that 3-headed monster at Creighton, but they got Jalen Suggs, they got Drew Timme, they got some players there. I think Gonzaga should beat Creighton. The next game, Michigan and Florida State. Now, this is going to be a very good, very intriguing matchup between these two teams. Now, for Michigan, Isaiah Livers, there's no official decision if he will be back yet. I think they need Isaiah Livers to beat Florida State. I think they do. I'm recording this before I know if he's playing or not, but assuming he doesn't, because they said it's a very low chance, so I'm assuming he doesn't play, I'm going to say Florida State wins this game, and they pull off technically an upset here. And now, UCLA and Alabama. This is a closer game than it looks like on paper. This game looks like Alabama should dominate the game with how well they shoot the three, and 40% of their shots coming from downtown. But UCLA's good. Their defense is the outside on the perimeter. They are so good on perimeter defensively. It's the inside where they have trouble. But Alabama doesn't like going inside. They like shooting a lot of outside shots. So this is going to be a really close game. I do have Alabama edging out UCLA. Sorry, George. I'm sorry. But I have Alabama beating UCLA. And the next game is a Pac-12 matchup. The 6th seed USC Trojans, the 7th seed Oregon Ducks. Oh, man. This is going to be a great game. This is going to be a great game. The last time they played, USC won 72-58. That was back on February the 22nd. And I mean, this is with the way Oregon played. They dominated Iowa. Dominated. And this is a team they've seen a lot of. I think this is going to be a game that comes down to the wire. And I'm going to edge towards an Oregon win. I think they're going to carry that momentum from that game turn it into a W against USC and go on to the Elite Eight. So those are my predictions for the Sweet 16. Let's see how I do. But that's all I got for today's episode, guys. So if you like it, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on Spotify. Follow me on Instagram at J_sports_podcast. Let me know how your brackets are doing. Mine's doing really bad because of all the upsets that happened, which the 13 upsets in the first 2 rounds is an NCAA record, by the way, or 12 upsets. So just to let you know, it was the most ever in NCAA March Madness history. But let me know how your brackets are doing. And until next time, this has been Joshua Nowakowski of the J Sports Podcast.